Welcome to Canadian Politics is Boring.
Hello, everybody, and welcome to another terrifying episode of Canadian Politics is Boring. My name is Jesse Harley, and I'm already making Reese Waters giggle. Reese, hello, how are you?
This is, oh my God, it's so scary. I've been having flashbacks ever since I made notes on this because it's just so terrifying.
I can't tell if you're being sarcastic or not. I go into every episode not knowing what you're about to teach me, which I genuinely like, by the way. I like being surprised. It's kind of fun.
Yeah.
But I can't tell if you're being serious now or not.
Yeah.
Hold on. Before we get into it, we keep asking each other how we've been. We haven't asked our audience member who's listening, the one person, how they are. So let's, how about we ask them? Oh, that's nice.
Yeah, they're pretty ignorant, though. They're not really sane. Anyway.
Yeah. Let's maybe just cut that out.
Yeah,
that's fine.
Didn't, as an experiment, I don't think it worked.
Yeah. Well, you said they were ignorant, and I said that's nice at the same time.
Very different. We're imagining two very different people as our audience member. So magic. Anyway,
have you tried the barbecue-tarianism diet yet?
I haven't yet. I was going to, and then I forgot that we talked about it, and then you just reminded me now, and I'm just talking about not.
The book is coming along great.
Have you barbecued anything?
Couldn't find any babies to barbecue, so that's probably for the best.
If you haven't listened to the QAnon episode, that is a joke. Jesse isn't a cannibal.
I'm glad that we have to
disclaim
that. Yeah, exactly. Don't worry, Jesse is not actually a baby eater nor a cannibal. This is fine. This is fine. Everyone just sit down, put your pens down. No strongly written letters needed. Yeah. No, the book is coming along nicely. Barbecue-tarianism, How to Live Like a Cannibal. A caveman. Totally different things. Yeah. And soon for sale on Amazon, I'm sure. I really have to make that a thing. That should be a thing. Don't you think that should be a thing? I'm going to make a cookbook.
Yeah. Just barbecue it. Every page just says put it on the barbecue. That's what I like about barbecues. It's not complicated. You just put it on there until it looks done.
Right?
Yeah. Until it's hard to chew. That's the rule.
I think you're doing it wrong, Reese. Just put it on the barbecue until it's hard to chew, and then you're done. When hard is cooking, I can cook.
How does it taste? Great. It's not done. Let's put it back on. It should be an ordeal. Otherwise, it's not barbecuing.
Your steak's not crispy. You're doing it wrong. Yeah.
Exactly. So this episode is not really about anything hugely political, but I kind of think it is a political thing. So
what are you doing? You disappointed me so much.
Well, this is a kind of a weird thing that I found. So obviously, I'm from.
I feel like our podcast, we start off talking about Canadian politics, and then we could eventually just branch off into anything at all,
like cookbooks about barbecuing, and So
exactly. Thanks for listening. See ya. That's it.
So the thing with this is, as someone who's moved to Canada from Europe, from a European country, so many people
from Welshland.
From Welshland, from Welshtown.
Welshtown in Welshland.
Exactly.
Right.
Number 1, Welsh Street.
You guys do nothing but hunt whales there, is that right? Is that
exactly? Yeah, there's none left. We ate them all.
That's why I came here. Yeah.
No. So everyone tells me that they're so jealous of how much history there is in Europe.
Who the fuck tells you that?
Lots of Canadians have said to me, "It's like, wow, there's like so much history where you come from, not like here." As if
that's not the same thing as being jealous of having so much history. Like, gosh, I wish we had more history like you. Your country has way more history than my country. Oh, fuck, I'm so jealous.
It's a weird thing, though. People like say to me that like there was no history. This. Like time didn't exist here for as long, North America materialized. And it is that political kind of that European perspective that somehow nothing happened until Europeans arrived. And it just blows my mind. Like Wales was invaded by Romans 2,000 years ago, but it doesn't mean that that's when it started to exist. They just came and killed everyone. And it just, so this episode, I was determined, and we're going to do a few episodes talking about the incredible history that existed in Canada before Europeans turned up.
Oh, wow. Okay.
It drives me crazy that everyone's like, yeah, you've got so much history. And I'm like, there's an equal amount of history in North America as there is in other parts of the world.
So this is before Canada was named Canada and before politics took over. So really, Canadian Politics is Boring episode for the next few episodes is going to be about A, not Canada, and B, not politics.
Yeah.
Okay,
is me taking a stand.
Just figure it out, yeah.
It's me taking a stand against Canadians who tell me that there's no history here and there's more history in Europe, as if somehow it didn't exist.
It's the land before time, yeah.
Exactly, the land before time, exactly. So this
what
episode
is the title of this episode, Reese?
Oh, the Badass Original Settlers.
The Badass Original Settlers of Canada?
Yeah, that's what it's called.
Canada. Well, it wasn't Canada back then.
So the weird thing is that, like, you know, there's not as much of like an imprint of buildings and towns and stuff, but there's still some crazy stuff that happened here that is worth talking about.
Okay, sure, fuck it. I got nothing else going on.
So I'm going to do better too. So when do you think people first arrived in North America, Jesse?
Like from other continents.
Yeah,
I believe it was the Vikings, and they arrived, and the Vikings it's been debated as to whether or not they actually arrived in Bonavista, Vista, Newfoundland, or they arrived in, I forget where, in Cape Breton, but it's in Cape Breton. And what year?
But this is my point though. Like, there were people there already when they arrived. I'm talking about those people who were there before the Vikings. I'm talking about before.
I don't think they arrived. I think they evolved from.
Do you want me to just tell you? This is painful.
Did they arrive? Was North America empty for millions of years? Okay.
So approximately 23,000 to 12,000 years ago, which I'll admit is quite a wide margin, the continents of Asia and North America were connected by a land bridge.
Right.
And the main theory is that people crossed over from Asia to North America sometime during that time.
Oh, yes, I've heard that theory. Yeah.
There's also some interesting theories that isn't true, and there wasn't a land bridge at all, and actually was much more sophisticated, and people sailed across 10,000 years ago. And
wow.
There's a 9,500-year-old skeleton in Washington State called the Kennewick Man, and the skeleton bears a strong resemblance to a tribe of people from Japan, which implies that they may have crossed the Pacific using boats instead, which is pretty impressive.
That's incredibly impressive for 13,000 years ago, 12,000 years ago?
That was about 9,500 years ago.
9,500 years ago, wow.
So 9,500 years ago, which is, I mean, they say the Vikings arrived 1,000 years ago, so 8,500 years before the Vikings sailed across, some dude sailed across from Japan, potentially.
Wow.
Which is crazy.
That is crazy.
And they measured carbon, nitrogen, and oxygen isotope ratios in his bone. And
I thought you were going to say that he measured. That's like was his skill 9,000 years ago. I'm like, Jesus, that's impressive.
He was doing carbon dating, which was really advanced while he was on his boat. So sailed the world carbon dating things. But when they did carbon date his body, they realized that he'd lived exclusively on a diet of marine mammals for the last 20 years of his life and only drank glacial meltwater. So he'd been living on the continent for a fair old while.
Wow.
So living on the coast, catching marine mammals and drinking glacier water. So it suggests the idea is that there was potentially like a highly mobile waterborne society that crossed over, 9,000, 10,000 years before Europeans even could work out how to do anything like that, but from Asia.
So I mean, crossing from Asia to crossing the Pacific, just on with sails 9,000 years ago. I mean, that would be a hell of a trek. They'd have to have some sort of community where they could survive on the water, sleeping and eating for weeks and weeks and weeks at a time. So you're telling me if that's true, then that means that at one point there existed our own water world 9,000 years ago.
but without Dennis Hopper on
Thank God.
on an oil tanker with one eye, throwing cigarettes to people. In it, because everyone knows that oil tankers are half full of oil, half full of cigarettes.
Yeah.
and then just going around on jet skis, and the reason they couldn't find the dry land was because the girl's tattoo was upside down. Plot. There's a spoiler there for you if you've never seen Waterworld. I love that. There's like an arrow pointing to a mountain, and no one can work out where it is, and then they hang her upside down, and then they go, "That's it."
I also love the fact that you think spoilers work by first giving out the spoiler and then saying spoilers. That's
If you haven't watched Waterworld, because you're too young, I don't think you're missing much. Basically,
you are so just a real quick. I had before one of my roommates moved out, I had two roommates downstairs who were like the best of friends, and they get really rowdy, and they like to have a drink or two, and then my third roommate, who wanted to shut them up, would just out of the blue suggest, why don't we watch Waterworld? And just saying the term Waterworld would get one or both of the other two to shout, Waterworld, Waterworld, let's put on Waterworld, as if they hadn't seen it 3 times the night before. Like, it was just, and it shut them up. It was like putting babies in front of like Sesame Street.
Wow.
They're just like, oh yeah, it was crazy. They watched it so many times and they loved it every single time. So anyway, that's my little side rant.
The most amazing thing about Waterworld was when he weed in a thing and then it trickled down through some filters and then just became water and then he drank it again.
Yeah, that was like magic, basically. The most advanced water filtration system on the planet.
It was made out of like Evian bottles that had been taped together, and somehow he'd worked it out. So anyway, so not only did these incredible people, like, whichever theory is right, they either walked across a land bridge or they sailed. Either of them is pretty impressive. But there was also some insane animals alive at that time that would have made it like some kind of, much like Waterworld, we had those giant, horrible, weird fish things. It was a lot like, but imagine
those are actual technical terms.
Yeah.
Horrible, weird, giant fish things on land.
Exactly. So have you ever heard of the short-faced bear? Have you ever heard of a short-faced bear? It's not a drink.
Don't want no short-faced bear. No, I haven't.
So
heard of this.
The short-faced bear.
So sorry for that reference. My God. Okay, keep going.
Basically, it was one of the biggest and most powerful predators.
I'm Googling this right now, unless you sent it to me in an email or something.
No, but the short-faced bear was one of the most powerful and largest predators ever.
Jesus, it's huge.
It was 900 kilograms, and it was it was up to 2 meters on his shoulders, and when it stood up on his back, it was 4 meters tall. So
I'm looking at it now. It's insane. It's gigantic.
Imagine a grizzly bear, but with really long legs. It was like they described it as a grizzly bear on stilts.
Yeah.
And they were able to follow scents from even a faint scent over like miles and miles, and they could run 40 kilometers an hour. And they think that these creatures were so effective, they actually slowed humans spreading through the North American continent because they were so terrifying and such good at hunting and killing.
Wow. So what happened?
The humans won.
Well, that's a short story.
Yeah, the short-faced bear had a short-faced ending. But I mean, it's pretty terrifying. But it's pretty badass. It is like some kind of sci-fi film where you sail across this ocean, and then you arrive, and there's these hellish kind of creatures there waiting for you to overcome.
This is again yet another spectacular television show idea.
Exactly.
The short-faced bear wars. Bear Wars. Just.
And then there was also the American cave lion. So there were lions in North America.
Of course there was.
And it was 25% bigger than the lions we see in Africa and India today.
Of course they were.
And it weighed 420 kilograms. And it was slightly faintly striped, and they didn't have a mane like modern lions, but they were just pretty terrifying. And again, you had a short-faced bear, you had a cave lion. It was, just go into the shops must have been a nightmare. I'm going to go to Dollarama and, oh my God.
Oh God, there's another short-faced bear in this section.
Exactly.
I just want to pick up some candy. They're always
And
near
there's
the
also
candy.
a North American lion in the kitchenware aisle. So I'm going to have to, I'll pick it. I'll come back tomorrow. So, but again, they were eventually all died. I imagine they were hunted successfully by the people who'd arrived.
You were about to say British people. Or the Brits.
Was I? I'm sure they would. I'm sure they would, like those Victorian hunters. Now it's just Americans shooting elephants, pretending they're there to protect them. And the other thing, dire wolves, Game of Thrones,
Yeah.
dire wolves, they were real things.
No.
They didn't have dragons and all that rubbish, but they were basically giant wolves with heavier bodies, bigger heads, bigger teeth, and they had a strong bite, and they could take things down like camels and horses down, even bison. And
were there camels in North America at that time?
I guess so.
You can say anything, and our listeners will believe you. By the way,
they were camels, but the camels had rocket launchers on their backs. They were terrifying.
I want to see this show even more now. Next time on Short-Faced Bear Wars, the rocket-launched camels are coming to attack.
I just looked it up. There were
looked up rocket-launched bear.
There were camels. Camels did roam North America, and they were called camelops, which sounds like Camelot.
Camelops?
And that's Latin for yesterday's camel, as in they're all dead. And they were 7 feet tall and weighed 800 kilograms.
I'm looking at one right now, and I'm very disappointed. I don't see any rocket launchers on this thing, but that's no.
I might have made that up.
Oh,
that might not be true. So,
okay.
But anyway,
we're learning all kinds of things about North America.
I don't think yesterday's camel was as much of a terrifying thing. But that's the other thing. There were those terrifying animals I just highlighted. There were also some other giant animals. So there was a giant beaver that weighed 125 pounds.
What? What's that called? I want to look at that.
It was just called the giant beaver. The fossils are in the Great Lakes. So it's just a giant beaver.
Jesus.
And there was also a giant sloth that weighed a ton, was 3 meters tall, and could grow the size of an ox.
Jesus.
Wow.
Fun times back then.
That would have been, so when people say there's no history, I'm like, yeah, there's quite a lot of crazy shit that happened.
Yeah, this guy that arrived from Asia who survived off of seafood. Well, he landed in North America, clearly. And yet he continued to eat nothing but seafood. Oh, I'm not going inland. Fuck that. Have you seen what's in there? No. Nope. No.
I am not going to carbon date anything more than a mile on the coast.
I'm staying near the undrinkable seawater for as long as I can.
Exactly. Yeah. Just drink the ice water.
Ice water and fish for me.
Exactly. But yes, I do find it mind-blowing. And I found other things that we will have in future episodes over the coming year that will equally hint at some of the mind-blowing history that was beyond any kind of European arrival.
Well, we have to make this about politics. So let's say
that is political.
How's that
for people to assume that history started in North America when Europe arrived is quite political.
I guess. Can we make up a political scenario where the waterworld tribe arrived in what is now known as Canada, and then they had an election? What would that look like, Reese?
I guess whoever could throw the most free cigarettes into the crowd would win. And that would have been Dennis Hopper. So, and on the way to the polling station, you just had to outrun a short-faced bear and dodge camel rockets.
Voting back then was way more exciting. Just saying.
Exactly.
Bear fights and lung cancer galore. That's
exactly. Just because the image of someone running away from a short-faced bear while smoking. Anyway, if people didn't watch Waterworld, I'm really sorry for not getting these references. It's really going to ruin this episode for you if you haven't seen Waterworld.
And it's going to totally ruin Waterworld for you. It's an amazing vote. I don't know why it hasn't won several Oscars. Oh my God.
I like Kevin Costner with webbed feet and gills.
You're just ruining it for everyone now, man. These poor people haven't seen the film.
But that's the whole thing. He's like a fish man.
I think the movie actually would have been done a lot better if it was just called Fishman.
Well, you know at the end, when they do find, I know I'm spoiling this film terribly.
There you go. Now you know how to do spoilers. Okay, look at you go.
In the 90s, so that's what if you haven't watched this, get over it. So, the fact that he spent his entire life on the ocean, and then they find land, and he doesn't like it because it's so noisy. There are birds and there are deer and there's like crickets, and he's freaked out by the noise. So he then wants to go back to the sea. But I'm like, the ocean isn't quiet either. I don't know how. It's not like I can't remember. Like the whole sitting on a beach and listening to the waves is a thing. You don't go to the beach for peace just to hear silence. I wouldn't record a podcast on the ocean because this is a really quiet environment to record a podcast. No, there's a lot of noise. There's gulls. There's waves. Usually. There's usually a lot of wind. There's people renting jet skis who are drunk. There's loads of stuff going on.
Please, Reese, continue. I want to know more things about the ocean that makes sound.
Whales, they're loud. Have you heard them? They sing to each other. Dolphins, they jump out and splash.
What are the noises that dolphins make?
There we go.
This is a very educational episode.
That was dolphin.
You're welcome.
That was dolphin. I'm sorry for interrupting your podcast with my large splash like that. I hope you can edit it out.
We're keeping this in.
Yeah. So ultimately, what was the point of this? Oh yeah, so waterworlds. The ending didn't make sense, and the ocean is just as loud as the land. So the end.
I hope that was their slogan, the tagline of the movie on the poster.
I hope you all enjoyed learning about Canada's badass first settlers.
Yeah,
and Waterworld to
and Waterworld to a lesser extent.
When I say when do you think the first people arrived? Are you going to say Vikings, or are you going to say something else from now on?
Now I'm going to say 9,000 years ago from Asia, motherfucker.
Yeah, a man sailed across, drinking glacial water, and then had a fight with some hellish beasts.
Yeah,
there we go.
There we go. Thank you for teaching me all about short-faced bears, rocket-launched camels called canopods. What are they?
Camelopes. They were
Camelopes.
Yesterday's camel.
Yesterday's camels and the giant tigers. Fatally straight tigers.
Sorry, whoever named that animal, this so shit. They're all dead. So it's not today's camel, it was yesterday's
camel. Yeah. Technically, all camels are yesterday's camel.
Yeah.
Except for new camels. Like new camels. Those are today's camels.
And present camels that are here now.
Yeah, but they were born in the yesterdays.
But they exist right now, and they will continue to exist in the future. So it's a weird way of naming an animal. It doesn't work. It's like technically all camels were yesterday's camels if they existed yesterday.
I have to say, this may be the single weirdest episode we have ever done. Just throwing that out there, Reese. Just
thanks people for listening. Thanks for bearing with us. Thanks for getting.
If you've made it all the way to the end of this episode, just when our cookbook comes out for barbecutarianism, just put in a code of short-paced bear for 10% off. I don't know if that's going to work or not. Is that legal? Is that legally binding? I better not say that.
Yeah. Well, thanks very much. Thanks for listening. Thank you for putting us in your sound tubes.
No. So
how do you say it?
Sticking us in your ear holes.
Thanks for sticking us in your lobes.
No, it's close. I'll get you to say one of these days.
And
thanks for listening to the weirdest episode I think we've ever done. That has nothing to do with politics or Canada.
It does. It is political. It happened in Canada, and it's political that people don't think that this is history.
That's not political. How's that political at all?
It is.
How?
Justin Trudeau was there. Who do you think sold the camels the rocket launchers?